hotel. So it's nice, but it's all shops and stuff. I'm looking forward to, from Friday, I'm actually going to do some sightseeing, and actually there's a bridge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
A suspension bridge. Yes. So we're going to go see that and then go on the Rocky Mountain train.
Oh,
I'm so excited. Right, so how I usually do this is instead of reading, because I know you guys, all read the book, I like to do a question and answer session, so just like a chat, and you can ask any questions you want. I may not answer them all. And since this is the newest book, I know some of you will have already read it. Try not to spoiler it for people who haven't read it. Maybe just ask in a way that I can answer it in a non-spoilery way. Or if it's a really spoiler question, just wait until I'm signing, and then ask, and I will explain to you. Okay? Right, so who wants to be the first person? Yes.
I've read your series from the beginning. Is it harder to write a series as it goes on, as the world is so developed? Is it hard to stay within the kind of confines of that because you can't change things, or is it kind of harder to start at the beginning and develop that world and it gets easier?
My personal view is that as a writer, I should always know where I'm going, right? And the reason for that is that then all the pieces link together. Like think of a necklace, all the links. I came to that decision after watching TV, actually, and I saw there were these great ideas in TV, and then it was clear they were making it up as they went along, because they just like remember there was a cloud one time on an island. You know what I'm talking about, right? So when you know where you're going, when you know the end point, it's a much tighter and more cohesive series. And one of the, I'm going to use TV as an example because most people are very aware of what's on TV. The first season of Heroes, if any of you are writers and want to watch that, in terms of the story arc, it's very well developed because you have an ending, and that's really important. In a series that has multiple arcs, you have multiple sort of like this, and then you start again. And I think if you know that, you can develop the world as you go on. So when I started the Side Changing, series, I knew the broad aspects of the series, right? And then I discovered things along the way with each book. But everything pulls back again into that main storyline. And if you don't have that main storyline or that goal, you go off on tangents.
Yeah.
That's what happens because there's nothing pulling you back in. And I think it's particularly important when it's a world that's big, because there is so much I could just randomly go, oh, shiny.
Like reading in, because the last few books you've gotten away from kind of the main or changeling characters and exploring the side a little bit more. And it's like, wow, there's just like, where do you go from here? There's just so much. How do you decide where to go? As the series goes on, it's like you have so many more choices presented with you that it's like, is it hard to like decide where like, I want to focus on this group of characters or this group of characters, and it's just like, as a reader, I'm like, oh, what's coming next? But as an author, it must be, same thing.
Yeah, it is
excitement for what comes next.
It is. And I think I usually know instinctively when I finish a book or a little bit down the road who's going to be next. It's just they come to the forefront and I run with it. And just talking about this book, Shards of Hope, I always knew that the final book in the story arc would be two sides. That's the only way it could happen, because what we started with, silence, and where we are now, so that was always the end goal. It was never going to be a changeling book, and so I'm really happy with that it all came together as I envisioned. And going forward, so I'll just talk about a little bit about the next book in a non-spoilery way, because I know that's one of the questions I get most often. So the next book is actually going to be an ensemble cast. Everyone is going to come back. So it's more of I guess the past few books have been a lot of adventure and, action. And so the next book is actually more of a family pack, squad-oriented book. It's about basically family across all different, bonds, whether of blood or of loyalty or of pack. And it's tying up a lot of small things that have come up in the series that haven't necessarily had an answer. Like at one stage we heard Rhea was pregnant, and then we didn't hear more, so we find out about that. And there's a certain priest and his Nina who need closure. There are some pub cubs. So it's that kind of book, it's going to be a warm book, and I hope you guys enjoy it, because I think I'm going to really enjoy writing it, and I'm excited to go back and really, check in with all of the characters, and I don't mean just the characters in the books. I plan to do it for the novella heroes and heroines as well. So I've told this to everyone, including my editor, and now I just have to figure out how to do it. So talk to me in 6 months' time. But yeah, no, I am really excited about it. So next question. Yes.
Do you have a favorite character in your Side Changing or Ghost Hunter series?
Favorite character? I like them all. It's really hard to answer that question, because when I write, that's my favorite, whichever I'm writing, because I'm so involved. Like, I think about them 24/7 when I'm lying in bed. Oh, what can I see? I do. Oh, I got it. And then I have to get up and scribble it down, and in the morning I try to read it. Is that even English? But yeah, I'm really into that book, and I think that's how it should be, because each and every character, when it's their moment in the spotlight, they should have all of my attention and all of my energy. So in that sense, I don't really have favorites. I even actually really love the villains, because they're so multi-textured, and for example, Ming is a very interesting villain because he's evil, but at the same time, he is the force of stability in one part of the world. So that's like a really fascinating duality to me, because does that even out all his evil, or can anything ever do that? But at the same time, so I love writing the kids in all the books. So they just bring the joy into even the harshest book. They'll bring in a moment of joy, and I do love that. Yeah. Okay. Well, the back. Yes.
Would you ever write a future generation like a Ben grown up?
Ben grown up. It's interesting. To this point, I haven't liked to skip time. So, for example, and by skipping time, I don't mean 6 months or a year. I mean like 10 years. I don't like to skip time because I feel like we lose all the development in between. It's possible at some future point I will skip, and then we could get a book like that. Or, more likely, I will be writing this until I am 99. In which case you will get me.
You have to write it after that. I'm so sorry.
That's right. I'll be like trying to move on into the afterlife, and there'll be all these people.
But to ghostwriter.
But yeah. So at this point, I can't see it because he is so young. He's 4.5, something like that. I have to check the notes, but because that would be a major time jump at this point, and I think we're not at a point in the series where that's viable. But you'll continue to see them grow, and I find that quite interesting as well. Like Kit is a good example.
Yeah.
When we first saw him, he's flirting with Sasha, and then he's getting thrown out of a bar, and then he's got some responsibility, and then he's really
He's growing.
Yeah, he's growing bit by bit, and I find that really interesting as well. And I think when it's time for Kit's book, it'll be all the more richer for being with him on this whole journey. Yeah. Okay, there was a question in the front that I before. No?
Well, I wanted to actually just go back to what she was talking about, and you were talking about you have this plan kind of thing, and I wanted to reiterate to make sure I understood what you were saying. It sounds like you have, in some ways, a flexible blueprint, but there is a blueprint for whatever arc you're working on, and all the pieces are laid out first, and then your books come out, and then you kind of decorate the rooms, and you might expand, certain sections, but the overall structure you've already worked with.
So when I tell writers this, it drives them crazy, but I don't really plan. But what I do is, when I talk about an arc, it means I know the overall storyline. So this is a spoiler, but I think at this point you guys all know. I knew that when we started with silence was going to fall, right? And that had to be the goal. That was the driving point of the entire series. So that was the big overall plot that held everything together. And at certain points I knew certain things had to happen, but I didn't know who was going to make them happen. I didn't know whose story would involve what. I hadn't sort of listed out which characters would have which book, because as I said, it's very instinctive for me. Like, as I was writing the second book, I knew the third book was going to be Judd. And he was, in my head, he was not meant to be the third book. But that's what had to happen, and so I did it. So yeah, it's, I guess a flexible blueprint is a good way to put it. But at the same time, it's not so flexible that where I'm going is going to change. Because again, that's, I think if you allow external factors, especially to change things, that's when, again, series sort of pressure off into, I don't know what you call it, like smoke, mist, you know. I speak really good English. I have these moments when I'm writing and it'll say, put that word that means that there. And sometimes, so I hand edit my first draft. So sometimes my assistant enters the changes, and sometimes it'll come back and it'll have a note from him. Did you mean this word? Yes, thank you very much. I'm a brain freeze. So yeah. I think there is. It's flexible, but like steel is flexible. You know, it's still going to hold its shape even after some fixing, right? Yeah. All right.